Denathrius may just be pushing the most genius plan in all of WoW history. The old book confirmed they infiltrated all the realms and very recently life. Well, a Haranir leader with green eyes was the main voice that we just learned that convinced the Haranir to come out of hiding just now, and keep in mind they were hiding since the Titan occupation. Remember, beware the eyes of green. Now, Lothraxion in the alpha is wreaking havoc in the new questline as a light fanatic, and we battle him, and while the questline is clear that he just went crazy with the light, let's be real, I mean obviously this would be a part of the plan. Obviously he's not just going to take his mask off as like a cartoon villain and says kind regards from Denathrius. Furthermore, we learned about the Titan and the Void agents, so is this guy literally planning for something to happen in the near future when he plans to unleash his entire dreadlord arsenal? I know it might sound crazy, but hear me out. You guys have all seen Overgear by now on the channel, and they offer an amazing coaching service. I personally found it super useful. When strapped for time, you get one-on-one sessions for PvP, PvE, or even arena PvP. You get matched with the top players and they can analyze your gameplay, they can help you set up your UI, add-ons, and help you master your class with super helpful tips and tricks. It can be awesome for PvE as well, and better yet, even if you play other games like Path of Exile or Battlefield 6, they can help you out there as well. Best of all, if you use my code Doronsmovies that you can see on the screen, you will get 10% off immediately, so check out Overgear. So, I've been talking about this for years now, and don't get me wrong, I know Blizzard is all over the place. They don't really have like 10-year plans out, especially when they created the first Whispers, and especially from the Shadowlands, since that overall was a pretty big mess. However, the story of Denathrius was actually one of the rare good moments from this period, and one of the rare characters that was popular within the community, and overall, a pretty interesting storyline. I'm not gonna go crazy on the backstory, as I'm pretty sure most of you are familiar with those Denathrius retcons from a few years back, but they were changed from being demons to actually being people from Revendreth. Remember those stone guys from Revendreth? Well, the Denathrius are actually their cousins, and there was a bit of chaos back in the day, so while Denathrius was trying to work and infiltrate realms, he realized he needed these types of like subtle agents, but a lot of his plans backfired, so he had to get the Denathrius out of the Shadowlands, but he still kept in touch with them. The Denathrius so far have been his most successful project. Now, let me recontextualize this real quick with the new lore, because changes from just a few weeks back really changed everything we've known about the Shadowlands and this entire storyline. It was recently confirmed that the Shadowlands are indeed fake. It was previously implied that the Titans had a role to play in actually making this realm. Sylvanas told us that there is an actual afterlife beyond the Shadowlands. Shadowlands is like this prison net. Furthermore, a recent cosmology book doubled down that we are stuck in this mechanism, like this cycle where life goes to death and vice versa, and it's all neatly balanced, as Sylvanas said, to ordered. Now, Zovaal and Denathrius actually teamed up, but from what we've learned, Denathrius has been trying to get outside of this cycle since forever, literally thousands and thousands of years. It was implied that he had his dreadlords infiltrate the Legion and do the entire Burning Legion thing. His dreadlords also created the Scourge. They were responsible for the Lich King, and keep in mind just how successful this infiltration was. I mean, the Denathrius were like the main Burning Legion intelligence for like 25,000 years. Now, the book we found in Revendreth confirmed to us that they are based in Revendreth and are deaf beings, but they can absorb other magics. The report says they had trouble turning into demons and absorbing Fel, but they did manage to do it in the end. Denathrius tried to infiltrate Light back in the day, but that failed, and Light decided to invade his realm. As you can see, it is still destroyed even to this day. However, the reports stated that finally, after a while, they managed to successfully infiltrate the Light realm. They had also infiltrated the Void, and while we were in the Shadowlands, they managed to get their hands on a Life agent, which was the hardest one, because the Dreadlords are the exact opposite to Life. Now, do not go crazy on the Scourge speculation, because I think that is still relevant, and Denathrius could take control over them later down the line, and the other agents. I want to talk about the Life and the Light agent, as that is super relevant right now with the new questlines we just got from like a week or two back. So the Light agent was pretty evident. I mean, who was Lothraxion, and lo and behold, he just became evil. Seeing that they made a mistake with the Light at first, it backfired into terrible destruction, so Denathrius had to be more intelligent this time. The book states that the light is very fanatical, their agents need to be converted to the core, like he needs to fully prove himself as a light transformed being, like a complete fanatic, and they will trust him implicitly. The Naru will believe this agent. This is pretty much Lothraxion. As I said, we just fight him and he turns evil. We have a brand new questline from the alpha, where Lothraxion leads a group of very fanatical light beings, where he sees everyone as like a void thing, like everyone is working with the void. Now, this questline came as a bit of a shocker, and people were saying, yeah, he really did get driven crazy by the light, that he was not in fact an agent of Denathrius, because he doesn't mention the Shadowlands or Denathrius. But I think people are just not really reading between the lines. I mean, Lothraxion does go like crazy fanatical light side. He talks about how even the light people are corrupted by the void, they don't see the real truth, the light is the only way, like everyone is working against the light. He tells us how much the light has changed him, talks about how just because he was once a dreadlord doesn't mean he can't now be a full light being. Then we have an elaborate fight and he's defeated, which for the Denathrius literally means nothing. I mean, keep in mind, this is the guy that told us that he died 100 times already in the past. Also, he is literally a death being, so can he even really die? Now, for some reason, people thought this questline was like a confirmation that he was not in fact an agent, and he really was a genuine convert of the light that just went insane over time. Guys, of course he's not going to do like a Scooby-Doo mask reveal and say it was me, Denathrius, all along, I finally got you, and then we defeat him in like a single boss fight. Who really knows what he is planning? Maybe the idea was that he wanted to prove himself as like a hardcore light fanatic, so that the Naru, like the big guys, are going to have no doubt that he's truly dedicated to the cause, and then he plans to do whatever. Also, as I said, the dreadlords, Denathrius, and dying doesn't really work. We've seen that time and time again. I honestly think this is a setup for him to get even deeper down the fanatical light hierarchy, so that he can be the most useful at a critical time when Denathrius actually returns. Keep in mind, based on the new lore, what is currently going on Azeroth, it is really the most critical moment in the history of the universe. Like, this is the culmination of like hundreds of thousands of years. Everyone is going to be affected with what happens next, and do you really think Denathrius that planned all these things for so long is just going to sit idle and do nothing? However, let's talk about another agent that I think is even more interesting, and it might be less obvious, but it is also a speculation that has been going on for a few years. So, the Revendred document stated that life beings are the worst opponents, as they're the opposite to the dreadlords. However, they looked at Ardenweald and the World Tree connection, and they found a target. The operative is already working on it. Now, check this out. Brand new lore, and I also have a full video on this crazy new lore that you can check out, but I'll sum it up super quick. Harandar, the new zone in Midnight, was actually called the Cradle back in the day. That is where the goddess Anhara used to live. Anhara is the name the Haranir have for their goddess, which is literally Azeroth's world soul. When the Titans conquered Azeroth, they ripped out Anhara, aka they ripped out Azeroth's world soul from this place, put her in a prison, and they took her out from the cradle. Now, the Haranir are actually the original creation of Azeroth, one of the earliest races on the planet. They used to live all over the planet, and they were her most loyal race. When Azeroth was ripped out from this place, the Rift of Aln, so Anhara, the Rift of Aln was created in Harandar, which, as it was stated, a cycle of violence was made that could never be extinguished. Now, here's the thing. The Haranir, aka the ancestors to the trolls and the elves, had to hide underground because the Titans wanted to order them, and they were successful in this hiding. They developed druidic forms to hide. They went deep, like crazy deep underground. Now, in addition to this, it was confirmed that the world trees are actually much more than simple trees, so much more. All of them are connected by roots in Harandar, where the cradle of Azeroth was, so all the world trees are tied to the world soul. The Haranir were the protectors of those roots, and while all the crazy things happened on Azeroth, from the Sundering to everything, they hid deep below where no one ever saw them. Well, check this out. So, the destruction of Teldrassil, as we learned from the new questline, was much more than the single destruction of a tree and the Night Elven capital. This actually created a huge problem for the world soul. She started giving out Radiant Song. This got the Haranir to start thinking about getting out of hiding. Check this out. It was actually the Jailer and Denathrius that orchestrated this destruction of Teldrassil, which created the entire Shadowlands ordeal, but this is not actually the point, the speculation I'm trying to get across. The point I'm trying to get across is that Orvenia, one of the Haranir leaders, was a very strong advocate, as we just learned from a questline, of convincing the Haranir to finally come out of hiding. Keep in mind, this is a really big deal because these guys have been protecting these sacred roots, obviously tied to the world soul, carrying out a very important mission like the most vulnerable part of Azeroth, and they have been hiding in this place since the arrival of the Titans, so literally for most of Azeroth's history. Them coming out of the ground is a really big deal. So check this out, Torvenia, very interestingly, has green eyes. Now let's go back to that old whisper that we've tied to so many things. The vassal of life disguises treachery. Beware the eyes of green. Now, if Torvenia is something, she is a vassal of life. I mean, the entire Anhara, Haranir, Harandar new lore implies that Azeroth is definitely life root based, and the Haranir are literally the most loyal followers of their goddess Anhara. Now, beware the eyes of green. Keep in mind, this moment of her convincing these guys to come out of hiding happened right when Teldrassil was destroyed, or a bit after, pretty much just around the time of the Shadowlands, when we learned that the dreadlords had gotten to their target. Also, remember, the Denathrius team implied that they managed to infiltrate to Otherworld, which is in a weird way connected to Azeroth's world trees and the Lune and everything, so it's all root connected. Now, I'm not saying for certain Torvenia is 100% a dreadlord, but come on, like, let's come out of hiding after all this time right now when all hell is breaking loose and when Lothraxion, the light agent, is causing trouble at the same time, just on a different front. Here's the thing, if we really want Blizzard to write like a genius, like actual storyline, this is really the way it would have to be written. If Lothraxion was just about to like remove his hood and tell us I've been an agent all along, like that would be so lame. Also, if Torvenia just suddenly just got like dreadlord wings, it would also be lame. However, he might have been doing some sort of a very intricate long con. He plans to activate all the sleeper agents in like the perfect moment. It was implied that he also has a void agent as well. He can also really take over the Scourge. Furthermore, they also said that the Titans were the easiest to infiltrate, so there might be an agent there that we don't know about yet. So depending on how the story unravels, I'm guessing if Denathrius was to return, he would really wait for the most perfect possible timing when everyone is fighting each other, and then he just steps in. Thanks for watching. Check out how the Forsaken Land revamp has been confirmed and what will be coming soon by clicking on the screen, and check out my video on Titan lore and Greek mythology that I've recorded live on site in Italy by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time.